RBAC, or Role-Based Access Control, is a fundamental security mechanism in Kubernetes. It allows administrators to control who can access what resources in a cluster and what actions they can perform on those resources. RBAC is a Kubernetes authorization mechanism that controls access to cluster resources based on the roles assigned to users. Once a user is authenticated and identified, RBAC determines what actions that user can perform. It implements the principle of least privilege, meaning users only get the minimum permissions they need to do their job. RBAC has 4 core components. Role defines permissions within a specific namespace. ClusterRole defines permissions across the entire cluster. RoleBinding grants role permissions to users within a namespace. And ClusterRoleBinding grants cluster role permissions cluster-wide to users or groups. Here's an example of a role resource. The API version is rbac.authorization.k8s.io/v1. The kind is role. In metadata, we specify the name as podreader and the namespace as default. The rules section defines what this role can do. It allows operations on pods in the core API group. The verbs list specifies the allowed actions: get, list, and watch. This role gives read-only access to pods. ClusterRole is similar to role, but works across all namespaces. In this example, the kind is ClusterRole, and there's no namespace specified because it applies cluster-wide. The name is secretreater. The rules allow access to secrets in the core API group with get and list verbs. This means anyone assigned this cluster role can read secrets from any namespace in the cluster. A role binding connects a role to a user or group. This example creates a role binding named readPods in the default namespace. The subject section specifies who gets the permissions. Here, it's a user named Jane. The role ref section references which role to grant. It points to the podreader role we defined earlier. This binding gives Jane the ability to read pods in the default namespace. ClusterRoleBinding grants cluster role permissions across the entire cluster. This example creates a binding named readSecretsGlobal. Instead of binding to a single user, it binds to a group named manager. The role ref points to the secretreater ClusterRole. This means everyone in the manager group can read secrets from all namespaces throughout the cluster. Follow these best practices when implementing RBAC. First, apply the principle of least privilege by granting only the necessary permissions users need. Second, use namespaces to isolate resources and limit the scope of roles. Third, prefer group bindings over individual user bindings because they're easier to manage. Finally, regularly audit permissions and remove unused bindings to maintain security hygiene.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.